People of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language. This, the 266th episode. Oh yeah, we're live. Our guest today, Gordon Glenister, is just an absolute treasure. This dude currently has the flu. He's on the show anyway. He's an influencer marketing genius, and he just put together this incredible report that shows how CEOs that are using social media in 2021 are just killing it. So we're going to talk about all that after the recap of the social media news of the day, so stay tuned. TheVerge.com, all links to all articles in the description. Google Meet is getting a wider rollout on Google Glass. Remember Google Glass? Google Meet video conferencing is adding fuller support for Google Glass, the company's frequently overlooked augmented reality headset. Yesterday, Google announced an open beta of Meet on Glass for the Glass Enterprise Edition 2. So, as I've mentioned before, the VR headsets that we wear now are bulky and ridiculous and will be seen in 10 years as the equivalent of the cell phone suitcases in the years past. And so the glasses I'm currently wearing now are exactly what Google Glass is going to look like. They're going to Bluetooth from our smartphones. And so it's a lot closer than we think. We're all going to be walking around in augmented reality. I think that billboards in the next 10 years are going to start being blank, and then they're going to be filled in with display advertising that's specific to you as an individual. We're seeing this a lot in football or soccer, or whatever you want to call it, where literally the fence around the pitch is just white, and then they will literally put in different advertisements based on your demographic information. So keep an eye on Google Glass. Might even be something worth considering investing in. Next article, businessinsider.com. Google engineers say they're just as productive at home as in the office, but the tech giant wants them back on site anyway. Now, I've been very critical of big tech companies. I think that someone will die. This is what it boils down to. There are companies that are currently functional with people working at home. One of those people or more is going to get into a car accident and die. And the big tech executives are going to have to wrestle with the morality of that, not because they're liable. Our justice system hasn't caught up to that yet, but it may eventually get to the point where it goes, you know what, we're actually putting people's lives at risk for something that is no longer necessary. And I have countless people in my life that have herniated discs in their neck or some back injury or some discomfort that they'll feel for the rest of their lives because they were commuting to work and they got into a car accident. And so, according to the article, Google employees say they're just as productive at home as they were working on site before the pandemic, but that's not slowing down the company's plans to make them return. In a recent internal survey, software engineers at the company said they feel just as productive working remotely, with their productivity levels rebounding in May after taking a hit when people began working from home in spring of 2020. More than 75% of surveyed employees also want more collaboration and social connections. Blah, 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 blah. Point is that I think there's no coming back. We just can't culturally come back to the way things were. Employees are going to make a big stink, and I'm with them, honestly. Final article before we introduce our guest. Facebook wants creators, but YouTube is paying creators much, much more. This from Vox.com. Facebook has nearly 2.9 billion users. So lots of people use Facebook to reach that giant audience, but Facebook wants even more people posting more stuff on its platforms. So it's going to pay out $1 billion by the end of 2022 to encourage creators, people who make internet content for fun and profit, but generally aren't running full-fledged media companies, to make content for Facebook and Instagram. I think that Facebook is scared of TikTok, and they should be. TikTok is it's so easy to get 500 views on TikTok. Try getting 500 views on Instagram. Try getting 98 likes. I just started my TikTok, and I've got an employee who has 1 million views on TikTok. So there are these culturally relevant moments, and TikTok is in the midst of it. And I think Facebook is starting to realize that that is a problem. Also, the United States has had a monopoly on social media for such a long time that now that we have China playing the game, I think Facebook is right to be a little scared of their growth. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. My guest today is, as I mentioned earlier, an absolute treasure. We had an incredible conversation backstage filled with truth. We're going to talk about influencer marketing. We're talking about CEOs. We're going to talk about what makes human beings happy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, the one, the only, Gordon Glenister.
What a build-up! My God, I've not had a build-up quite like that before online, so that's pretty awesome.
You're famous.
Yeah, obviously.
So we know that you're hurting a little bit, that you're feeling a little bit under the weather. So we really appreciate you, powering through it.
Absolutely, yeah. The show must go on. I was just telling you earlier that I had a big presentation to do at sort of lunchtime today, and because I know that it was well marketed, I had a lot of people there. I just thought, oh God, I can't let them down, because I know what it's like when somebody doesn't show up, or they call you last minute and saying, I'm not really really feeling it. And we were just saying, what we, as an entrepreneurs, we know what it's like to just power through. And so if we know what it's like, it's about not making sure that you still deliver for others. So it's part of my mantra, the show must go on.
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. So my sister owns a company called Chelsea Smith Cosmetics, and she regularly gets 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 views on her TikTok. And so she is technically an influencer. She did well on Facebook and that sort of thing. In what way would you possibly work with her?
Well, I mean, obviously, one of the most important things, this whole industry of influencer marketing has ballooned. If you look at in 2016, it was an industry worth around $1.6 billion. Now, 15 billion. And that's how mesmeric that it has grown. And so I think, what we've actually found, particularly in the last year, and particularly on TikTok, we've found, accidental stars that haven't gone out of their way to become influencers. What they've realized is that they're passionate about something they believe in. They just want to have fun, and so therefore they entertain people, or they want to educate people. And I've always believed, if you educate, you entertain, or you inspire people, then those are some of the key ingredients in becoming influential. Why do we gravitate towards certain people? So I think your sister, did you say?
Yeah, my sister, Chelsea Smith.
Yeah. So I think there's all sorts of ways in which a brand would be interested in working with her. Obviously, the most important thing is that that she is aware of what she can offer by way of sort of brand collaborations. So education is everything, and a lot of people that don't know what value they already have. That's a key part of this. And somebody that's been involved in the Branded Content Marketing Association and runs my own influencer marketing programs, a lot of it's about making sure that you get real value for your audience. However, it's not just about an audience, it's about an engaged audience, because brands just don't want big follower numbers. What they want is engagement. They want to arguably get a return on their investment. So if they're going to spend money with somebody of a certain audience, like your sister, they'll want to know what it's going to take to convert people to their web store. It might be that it's part of a brand awareness campaign, and therefore it's just about creating reach. And they work with her and a number of other content creators. But it also might be that they want to create an ROI and deliver engagement. So what I would suggest that your sister does is start to look at other content creators that are in her niche, particularly, and start to look at the attributes of what engagement is all about. Because you just mentioned views, amazing, but it's also about what is it that's getting that response, and then it's about formulating a strategy to move forward.
Yeah, so she's currently working with a company to create custom wigs. So she did cosmetics for a while, selling makeup and that sort of thing. And then she, a lot of these wig companies will sell like crazy pink wig and this sort of stuff. The wigs she's selling look real. They're like she works with some folks going through chemo, that sort of thing. So these are wigs that you would look at the person and go, wow, your hair is gorgeous, but you wouldn't think that person's wearing a wig. And so she'll do these TikToks where her followers will say, hey, recommend me some, and they'll send her a photo, and then she's like, oh, do this one, do that one, do this one, do that one. So she's already selling a product, which I guess is a little different. You've got your influencers, right, who are just popular. They're popular because they do auto-tuned stories of when they used to be a server at Olive Garden, which is some guy I just followed the other day. He's so funny. He's so funny. He just sings auto-tuned versions of like embarrassing things from like growing up in this like super fundamentalist Christian kind of world, like he just anyway. And then you got folks.
He's entertaining you. He's doing one of my three things. He's entertaining you.
He makes me laugh. He just makes me laugh. And it's one of my favorite things about him is when he sings, he himself will laugh at his own thing because he's getting a kick out of it too. Because he's like, this is so stupid, But to someone who already has products, does that throw a monkey wrench in the process?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think, as I say, people want to engage people that they can relate to. That's a big part of what influencer marketing is all about. And a brand is effectively borrowing an audience. And one of the things that's fascinated me is traditional advertising now is definitely waning in certain categories. It was interesting listening to your news earlier about billboards and around the football matches and stuff like that, and how that's going to change. One of the things I love about working with influencers is it's a very personal experience. If you go to a store, for example, you'll see a load of clothes, for example, and there'll be the odd mannequin there showing you perhaps what a style might look like. Whereas actually what you've got with these individuals, you could almost have your perfect persona. And you can say, I love that guy, or I love that girl. She really relates to my style. And what we're seeing is we're seeing them in use. We're seeing them on the application. So we're seeing them at the party. We're seeing them along the beach. We're not just seeing them in a clothes store. So that's why I think it's so important to be relatable. And do, as your sister was saying, is you keep asking your audience about different styles that they like. The best influencers are very responsive. And that's ironically why there's been a growth in nano influencers and micro influencers, because they have smaller audiences and they're much more likely to comment back and build that real value proposition. Whereas some of the bigger ones, the celebrity and mega ones, you almost think there's just, you can't relate to them quite in the same way. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I think would be neat for her would be for her to be the influencer reaching out to other influencers for them to put on her wigs. Mm-hmm. So she is an influencer herself. However, she could also be, and I think she has, and we've talked about this. I think it's difficult. I think it's challenging for her because she'll send like a wig box to the person, and then that sort of communication with that person on how they're going to portray the product, whether they'll actually do it or not. It's a lot of work trying to measure return on investment for them doing that, locating the people that would be willing to do this sort of thing. It's sort of, it's like a part-time job.
Could she do like an educational, like a makeover tutorial or something like that? That's the equivalent. Or could she almost create a template of this is how to promote the wigs?
We just had that conversation. Yeah. Of sort of saying, hey, look, this is kind of how you could go ahead and do this.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, it's like, if you're trying to get somebody else to sell your product, they're effectively an extension of your business. And so if you hired a sales guy, you'd make sure that they went through some training, wouldn't you? You wouldn't just let them loose with the barest of information. So in the same way that if you're going to work with an influencer, what you want to do is to make sure that they're well briefed and they understand the value proposition of the product, the benefits, and perhaps how best to promote it without necessarily telling them exactly what to say, because influencers have their own voice. But in a way, what they can do is use the elements of the brief in such a way that they can communicate it, as I say, in their own voice. But the blueprint, the brief, is everything.
Yeah, I mean, there is a way to systematize this. There's a way to grow this, as you mentioned before, from 1.6 billion to 15 billion. I forget what the exact numbers were, but some massive expansion. It makes me excited to put a page on my website and to maybe start promoting Well, here's what we're doing, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I'm going to get free consulting from you because we're on the show. You can't say no.
Oh dear.
So funny. No, so anyway, on staff, we've got Shali Super is her new last name. She just got married. It's such a great last name. So Shali Super, who just got 1 million views on her most recent TikTok, is literally sitting down with clients of ours, and these clients don't know anything. They don't know anything. They're like, where do I download TikTok? Like, that's where they're at. Like, huh? And she will do our consultations. We're not charging nearly enough. It's super cheap for her time. And she's currently an account manager, but I want her to just be the consultant. I want her to just do training. And we just launched a store on the website where there's like 2 free ebooks and 1 other Instagram training thing that you can buy for some super cheap price. And then we have like a $700 more legitimate package. So we've got like the tiers. How do I promote her as someone that people should sign up for consultation once every month or once every 2 weeks?
Well, what's really good about what you've just said is that you've got somebody in the house that's doing this. And so that's great. So she's already got an audience. What age is she? So I'm guessing some of her audience are not necessarily going to be your target audience.
Oh no, heavens no! But here's my thing, and this is my little.
She knows how to do it. That's the point.
Yes. So to my entrepreneurs out there and to my business owners, how dare you be upset when your employees have side projects? You know what I mean? Like, now, if they are like not spending time, or they're a bad employee or whatever, so if there's some other reason why you're upset with them, that's fine. But from day one, when Shali is like, I've got this other brand and here's my other thing, I have commented on her blog posts. I like her stuff on TikTok. Like, I am a fan of her side projects and have been before it meant anything for me, right? Before it had any relevance to the agency that I run and whatever. And now there's an entire department we're building around her because we can say she's done so well on social.
So she's living and breathing what your product is all about. You know, you're very lucky to have her on the payroll. So, I mean, what I'd be doing is using LinkedIn. I'd be using Facebook and Instagram to really, we don't just talk about it, about how to do it. We've already got our teams generating over 1 million views. So, you know, when you've got that as a sort of a headline, then that is your sweet spot, I would have thought. And perhaps, is there a way where you could get her on a video? So her on video, using some snapshots, getting some testimonials, and being able to promote her on other platforms, because I'm guessing a lot of your entrepreneurs are going to be on LinkedIn and Facebook. So it's about just using her as the ultimate case study. You know, we don't just talk about it, we do it, and we do it from one of our own employees, you know.
Yeah, we really need to start throwing out that $1 million, it feels like $1 million, 1 million view TikTok. Learn from, you know, someone who just got 1 million views on TikTok. We did a LinkedIn training. I literally went through and individually clicked on every single one of my LinkedIn connections, because LinkedIn forces you to do that. There's no select all button to invite them to events. So I'm getting carpal tunnel, you know, doing my thing. And by the way, if you don't ever use the other hand for your mouse, I highly recommend it. You may find that your productivity goes way up, because if you just use one hand, it will begin to hurt. So I was left hand clicking through all these things. And you know, we had like 95 people sign up and then 8 people show, you know, so it was a starting point for Shali to start wrapping her head around doing these trainings. So she did a live training and she did gangbusters. She did great. And she's got about 3 or 4 clients. And what Send It Rising is doing is we're providing the clients to her. Okay. So I don't know if she were on her own trying to get these sorts of trainings, if she would have as much success. So that's the value we're bringing to her, is going, hey, we have an attorney right here who wants the training. Here you go. Here's a client. So she's getting all of this incredible experience consulting on social media, and getting her out of account management, I think, is just one of those things that You and I both know this. Like, you do the same thing for long enough, or at least if I do, I'm over it. I'm just over it. I can only do the same thing for so long before it's just driving me crazy and I need to move on to something else.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I do might be worth you considering. I do a thing called a weekly moment. So it happens to be a influencer marketing roundtable, and it's at 9 o'clock every single Wednesday. And I use that as a 10-minute talk with a 50-minute Q&A. And what I find is that I probably get between 7 and 15 people to that. They're almost getting one-to-one coaching, but what they're getting is a real taster for what I'm all about, and they understand the sort of thought leadership behind me. So they're as you rightly said a minute ago, you're getting some little taster of that consulting approach, and they can then ask some questions. Now, from that, I then move on to what we call a discovery call and a strategy session, and the level of people that convert as a percentage of those that have come to my weekly moment is very high. And also having a Facebook group. So I have a Facebook group called, I mean, it's only just started mine. So we've just reached over 200 people. So it's not
Good job, by the way.
But what it is it's called Influencer Marketing Secrets. And if any of your listeners or viewers want to join it, I'd be delighted to welcome them on board. And I'm a great fan of promoting people. So what I do is I tend to do little shouts out. I did one the other day of the photographers in the group. I did one of some of the influencers in the group, some of the brands, the retailers in the group. And I just give them little snippets of advice and tips each day. I get access, you probably do as well, access to a lot of industry data, really amazing research, which a lot of my customers or prospective people don't see. So, for example, Hype Auditor have just released an amazing piece of research on what influencers are earning. Now, some people have probably no idea what influencers earn. So that sort of 15-page report is a really great way of using some little snippets of some of the charts and some of the responses from those influencers. But because I've got that sort of credibility by association, it adds huge value to me. And I think what's happened over the last 12 months is there's been so much content out there. There's so much knowledge. There's so many programs for all sorts of different things. The real value is in all of us that are helping entrepreneurs make sense of it. You know, we know that if any one of them want to create their own TikTok, if they want to grow their Instagram, they can do that. But a lot of these guys are busy. They're really busy. They're trying to do what they do best. And I've always believed in the principle, do what you love, do what you do best, and just hire somebody else that is specialist in this area, that does it almost blindfold. And it sounds as though your lady with TikTok is almost a shining example of that. And so therefore she's a great asset to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my nightmare scenario is my staff one day wake up and realize how valuable they are. I mean, I kid, of course. Here's the thing. I bonus, and that's always been my structure, so I can be really aggressive, and I let everyone know, look, I bonus because it can go down. It's hooray, you're very excited for your bonus this time. It can go down. And the reason it can go down is I pay you more than I would if I just bumped you up salary wise. So, you know what I mean? So it's as close to ownership as I can get you without literally like adding you as a percentage owner of the company.
Yeah.
So we got to work together in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what that looks like. Influencer marketing is, I mean, I would just be the dumbest person on planet Earth if we didn't aggressively move in that direction anyway. We are kind of dipping our toes into it as we move forward with this training. So basically, our client roster is personal injury attorneys and dentists and plumbers, a lot of service-based smaller businesses. But we have a national mosquito repellent, for example, like we're all over the place. And these folks, like you just mentioned, we live in a completely new world, a world where the answer is in your pocket. So you don't need someone to tell you, I wish I knew what the answer was. You know what the answer is. It's a question of motivation, actually doing it, holding your feet to the fire, doing it the right way, etc. Which is why everyone's a coach. Everyone's a consultant. Everybody, right? Throw a stick, you hit a consultant. So I don't know what the next step is. I just know that my sister, just bought a pool for her backyard and they have 2 convertibles. I know that. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that Send It Rising.
Some of the top influencers are making huge amounts of money, but and they make it actually not just on the advertising posts, they actually make it on affiliate links, which is fantastic for a brand, because what that basically means is that this effectively, it's a commission. I know particularly in the fashion sector, as one of my members at the BCMA reward style, some of these girls are making $50,000-$60,000 a month. Now, if they're making that per month, think what they're generating for the brand. It's absolutely huge. And the other thing that I've found really fascinating is what I call co-collaboration of brands. So not only are some of these influencers becoming their own brands, is that, let's just take, for example, fashion. Some of the big designers are now realizing, well, we make clothes, and we make amazing clothes, but we've only got a relatively small audience. Whereas some of these guys and girls have got huge audiences. Why don't we make a line for them? Then absolutely, we'll do the fulfillment, we'll create the design, and they can have their own label. So what you've got is creativity meets influencer. Bingo. And that's not just happening with fashion, it's happening with a whole host of other brands in publishing, in travel, in gaming, for example. Because, what we want nowadays, we want to listen and watch authentic storytellers. We hate ads. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh, they're the worst.
It's actually an intrusion, isn't it? More so, and that's why people have a lot more people have got into web ad blockers, because they just don't want to be sold stuff. More video content is coming out, and that's happening, of course, with Reels, and also the algorithms are preferring to see this. However, during the pandemic, or more latterly, I think there is a little bit of oversaturation, particularly when it comes to online events, perhaps when people are, like, as you say, registering and signing up and then not showing up because they've got so many interruptions that are going on in their day. But if you're going to run events nowadays, it's about hyping the event before. So we're going to go live at 10:30 every day, and so that actually what you're doing is you're trying to educate your audience that it's a set time every day. Yep. So you're building that momentum, and then you're then following up perhaps on a Facebook group afterwards to say, I love what you were saying in the show, and then you use a bit of a Q&A. And the more you can get user-generated content, you can effectively be a facilitator rather than somebody that's always driving those conversations as a community manager. The more you will start to see really, really insightful stuff. And online communities are growing at a ridiculous rate. Lego, for example, everybody knows Lego. Do you know how many people they've got in their online community? It's like 4.8 million people that are in this community. And this isn't for kids. This is
no. Trust me, I have an employee that just built the Death Star with Legos. I mean,
right, okay. But what it is, this is what I think is so fascinating. This is for a lot of guys that are engineers, or just literally create amazing things. And this is what I think. That's why I love Lego. They've really created so many spin-offs from venture parks, from like the stores there's a Lego store in London. You've probably got them in the States, but it's not just about Lego. It's about a whole range of clothing. It's a superstore. So yeah, it's fascinating how brands are moving towards this experiential phase. And this is what I think influencers can play a big part in this. They can be immersed in that experience. So if you're a brand now and you want to work with an influencer, one thing you shouldn't do, here's my advice, is don't go straight out to them and say, hi, this is who I am. I'd love to work with you. 65% of influencers ignore outbound emails or direct messages because they get so many of them. So what I suggest you do is start to think about the types of individuals that you would like to work with, because their aesthetic works. It's a good follower base. It's a good engagement rate. That is very important. They're talking about a subject that sort of resonates with you. So my first suggestion is tickle their toes, not literally, but what I mean by that is start to like and comment on some of their activity. So it's the jab, jab, punch approach. Yeah. What it means is that you do a little bit of that and a little bit more, and then you go and direct message and you say, hi, Joel. I've been following you for a while. I love your content, really, really succinct, and particularly like what you're talking about with XYZ. We're a brand that does ABC, and I think we look like we're aligned. I wanted to talk to you about a particular project that I'm working on that I think could be mutually beneficial. Could you drop me a line back? So what you're doing is you're not telling them everything. You're giving them a peek, a hint of a campaign. They'll then go and check you out on their Instagram, on your Instagram. So so that's the approach that I would take. There are also kind of amazing influencer marketing tools and platforms out there, a staggering 1,200 at the last count. And what these are sourcing places where you can source influencers. You can run entire campaigns from them, from contracting to evaluation and analytics. But what it does do is it will allow you to really deep dive into the audience of that influencer, because you could look at somebody and could say, oh, this guy or girl looks really great. It's got all the right things. How do you know that they haven't bought followers? How do you know that actually that 80% of their audience isn't based in Europe and you've got an American only brand? How do you know that actually 80% of their audience isn't male? Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying there is that insights create action, and because a lot of these influencers are not going to share with you that information before you've done your research. So it's worth having a look at that. If you're serious about influencer marketing, then I'll be happy to demo two of the tools if any of your listeners or viewers want to have a look at it at any time in the future, or you as well. But some really cool stuff out there.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it's just so fascinating and interesting to imagine how brands are leveraging the soul of an individual, because these influencers are, many of them, now some of them are crazy and have mental illness, are going through some real horrific things, and and it's bad news bears. But the vast majority that I've seen are just, it's just so empowering to the proletariat, to the proletariat masses, because boom, you're an entrepreneur. It's just like that, just.
So here's the thing: average age of an influencer, of a social media influencer, not a B2B influencer. If we just take social media, what do you reckon the average age is?
Oh man, 22.
28.
Okay.
And what's the male female split, you reckon?
Female 65%.
80 plus.
80 plus.
So what we're now getting is loads and loads of female entrepreneurs rising as a result of that. And then the biggest buckets of fashion, beauty, travel, gaming, of course, has been huge. Why I'm fascinated with gaming is because now gaming is not just about, people in dark rooms playing games. They are, there's a whole range. I mean, more and more people are into games, but brands are realizing this very, very engaged audience could be a way where we can talk to them about fashion. We can talk to them about like MasterCard or Barclaycard. What I'm saying is there are lots of exciting things happen where you've got cross-pollination of sectors. I will say that I'm always a fan of niche rather, because it's become a lot crowded now within, everybody wants to be an influencer or content creator. So, the more niche that you are, the better, because although you may have a smaller audience, you are very, very specific, and brands will really like to work with people like that. And have a look at the quality of the content and your aesthetic. So I'm a great believer in having a clearly, it's like your resume. So if you've got on your Instagram as your brand, if you've got lots of images of you out with the dogs, or you showing a product somewhere, it almost looks like a bit of a mismatch. And it doesn't look very appealing it looks, okay, it might look authentic, but, and if you wanted to have your own personal Instagram or Facebook, by all means do that. But for me, as a brand, this is now, not just as an influencer, I think you should be absolutely clear about, in fact, I want to just show you, I don't know if I can get it up on here. One of my favorite influencers is this lady here. Right, can you see this?
The beautifully something. She's on the beach.
Beautifully defected. But the whole idea is, so she's a mummy blogger and she's got some beautiful children. Right. But what I'm saying is, look at the color and the aesthetic there.
Oh, it's all sort of the same palette, and
it's the same palette, yeah. So she works with some like brands like Johnson's, and they love what she does. So she's a real amazing example of a content creator, and so this is what's important, is the level of, because there's so much more competition now. It's not enough to do a selfie. It's about the quality of the picture. That's why a lot of the top influencers will have professional photographers going around with them. They'll have professional videographers going around with them. It's now not enough to just do a video. It's actually got to be at a scene. And that's what I say about some of these guys. You know, they're not just content creators. They're often themselves photographers, videographers, film directors, producers, location scouts. They know WordPress, they know email marketing, you know, they are all in one, like a mini advertising agency, if you will, in one go. And these just blow me away sometimes with their real multiple talents. And yet us sort of in our sort of mid-50s, well, I speak for myself, of course, and that's, we've got a lot of skills gaps. And that's why I think, you know, working with an influencer doesn't have to necessarily just be about propelling your brand. You know, get them in for the campaign and let them show you what they can do. So it's called a social media takeover. So you can hire an influencer, not just to amplify, but you can actually hire an influencer to do your brand campaign for you. And look at the way that they build the hashtags. Look at the way they build the level of engagement. So it's not a bad shout to do that.
Just incredible. So did you know that this is a 30-minute show?
And have we ever gone?
So because of the quality of the conversation, and it's you know, that we're going long, because this is kind of a microcosm for the world we live in now. I have zero interest in ever forcing my employees to go back to an office, because freedom is everything. Autonomy is everything. And what you get with autonomy is, you know, people either getting fired very quickly because they can't handle it. But if you can handle it, welcome to the new freedom. You know, it's now a 39-minute show because I said so. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, I just want to say there's not an ounce of what you're saying or doing that would lead me to believe that you're not feeling anything less than 100%. So I wonder what you're like at 100%. Awesome. Just killing it. So absolutely thrilled. I'm going to do a quick pitch for my show, and then we would love to hear your selfish capitalist takeaway, you know, on where folks should reach out to you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the drill, 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Marketing as a foreign language. Why is it a foreign language? Because what you just heard from our good friend Gordon it's like learning Chinese. Social media takeover, understanding the nuances of influencers, just how many there are, learning about the platforms, learning about the median the gender and the median age, 28, 80% female, etc. It's just like picking up French, you know, these little bits and pieces get you towards fluency. in marketing, and languages adapt over time. And so we're trying to get you fluent in marketing. So we appreciate your time. To the folks that are joining us live, we love you. For the vast majority of the folks that see us, hear us, love us outside of 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, iTunes, Spotify, streaming live on the Send It Rising Facebook page, we love you too. Just want to give a shout out to Gordon. What an inspiring wealth of knowledge. So excited to have you on the show. We'd love to have you back. Why don't you tell the fine folks where they can reach out to you if they have any questions?
Oh, that's great. It's lovely to be hosted by you. You did an awesome job too, I have to say. I'm an author of Influencer Marketing Strategy. You can buy a book on Amazon or leading bookstores. You can head over to my website, which is gordonglenister.com. Or you can listen to my podcast, which is called Influence, the global podcast that shines a spotlight on influencer marketing.
He's a pro when you got that concise elevator pitch. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you swinging by the show. We'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.